Hello, I'm Luke Hattelstad. I'm the Public Information Officer for Arapahoe County, and this is Conversations with the Commissioner, tonight featuring District 2 Commissioner Nancy Sharpe. We are here to talk to you about the latest developments in the county, give you some updates on general county business and a kind of a look ahead to 2021. We do these events quarterly for each commissioner in their respective districts. And these are the kind of things that we would normally want to do in person so we could see all of you and shake hands and meet old friends and things like that. But because of COVID, we've been doing them virtually since last summer, I guess. We're hoping to return to an in-person gathering, which will probably also include a digital component so we can get more people overall. We'll be doing that hopefully by Q3. That's what we're shooting for at least. But for now, we're going to do it like this. If you are one of our guests tonight, we can take questions from the commissioner, for the commissioner, and from you. And the way to do that is if you're calling in, you should dial *3, and you'll be put through to an operator who'll put you in the queue to get a question answered. And if you're online on our Facebook page or on our website, you can type questions into the comments field, and we will get them on our little dashboard here. One thing to note is that neither the commissioner or I are medical experts, so we can't give you a whole lot of medically specific vaccine or COVID information. We do have an update about the logistics of the situation and where we are on the dial and things like that. But we always want to refer people who have medical questions or how to schedule an appointment questions, things like that. We want to refer them to the Tri-County Health Department website or phone numbers, and we'll share those with you later on. So with that, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Nancy Sharpe.
Thank you, Luke, and welcome everybody. It's nice to have you. I wish I could see everybody, and or most of you anyway, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to have, as Luke said, a little of both in person as well as online and virtually. I think it's been really great to have be able to reach so many more people by this format, using this format. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll go ahead and get started. So Luke, next slide. I'm going to start off because I think top of mind for so many people is COVID. We've been, as everyone knows, for the last year now, almost a year, tremendously impacted by COVID. So just to give you a quick update, the county is currently at level yellow. And that is, if you're looking and look at what the governor's levels and what's shown at Tri-County Health, it's a big improvement from our red level that where we were last November. So we've made great progress. The governor has announced the dial is 2.0. And really what that means at this point, that restaurants can open at a better, higher capacity, about 50% now. And that kind of feeds into the 5-star certification program. And the reason the 5-star program was started was to give restaurants an opportunity, if they met certain criteria and had inspections, that they could open with greater capacity and then actually go down one level from where, like, red to yellow and yellow to blue and or green. I'm trying to remember exactly what that is. I think it's blue.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah. And so, that helped the restaurants and to open to greater capacity. And of course, that means restaurants stay open, more people can go back to work. Those that feel comfortable can go to restaurants and certainly look at that 5-star program. So we've been grateful to be able to have that. And we are working with really collaboratively with Tri-County Health to update and implement distribution plans also for vaccines, which, in the end, that's many months, as we all know, program. But in the end, that will really be the way where businesses can open up, and we'll move back to what hopefully our normal will be later this year. And I'm just going to spend just a minute on vaccines because I think that is a big question that people have. And right now we are in, I'm going to look at my notes here to get this right, in the 1B2 category. So there are different levels for vaccines that the governor has outlined, and each one of those allow vaccines to open up to a greater, larger group of people. And this current one, I know we've talked about 70 plus and let's see, high risk healthcare workers and individuals, Coloradoans who are age 70 plus, moderate healthcare workers, moderate risk healthcare workers, and first responders. So the next level, which just started, I believe it was on the 8th of February, is moving to age 65 to 69, and pre-K and to 12 educators, childcare workers in licensed childcare programs, and continuity of state government. So continuing to increase the number, the categories of people who are eligible for vaccines. I want to go back for a second because on the 5-star program, the when 70% of the 70-year-olds are vaccinated, then the 5-star restaurants will be able to open to that blue level. I had forgotten to mention that. So that's, again, a plus. And the goal there is to, and the anticipation is that we'll reach that level by the end of February, and I hope that's the case. Let's see if I've forgotten anything. One of the things that's important is if you have questions about where we are in with the dial, or who's eligible at different points in time, the 1B1, 1B2, 1A, all of those, it's very confusing, is go to Tri-County Health, and that's www.tchd.org. And we'll give that to you again, but you can access a lot of health information and vaccine information at Tri-County Health. So let's go on to next slide, please. And I think we've talked about this before, that Arapahoe County was fortunate enough to receive $114.5 million from the federal government as part of the CARES program, CARES Relief Program, which stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, that was passed last spring. And just to give you, we've sort of wound down on that program. We have a little bit more that in terms of continuing to implement at the county level, but about almost 50% of that was allocated to the cities. And I'll just tell you real quickly, vulnerable populations and schools received almost $9 million. Business support, $16 million. COVID testing, which still is ongoing, by the way, and want to encourage people. There are vaccination sites, and want to encourage people to continue to be tested if you are. I know we're moving into vaccines, and that's the light at the end of the tunnel, but also want to make sure that if you need to be tested, you go ahead and do that. It's important to keep that program going. And so public health was about almost $4 million. County operations was 6.5. Respond and prepare, and that included a whole slew of things, and PPE, and a lot of that that was distributed to nursing homes and healthcare facilities, and trying to get that program. We're doing really well now. It was adequate supplies last year, and so a good amount of that money was spent helping those organizations. So those are, I think one of the things, the state has a a new program that is some business support, and we're getting more and more information on that, and actually asking the state to expand the number of the qualifications for that program so it can reach more businesses. So we'll keep you in tune with that, and all of this information is available on our website. And so anything related to COVID, absolutely go to our website, and Luke will give that information. We'll give that to you at the end of the presentation. So Luke, next slide. So now the community, I'm going to talk real briefly about community resources. And this is Arapahoe County. It's a department called Arapahoe County Community Resources. And they're the ones that have really administered the business, economic and business relief programs that were created by that CARES funding that we received, the $16 million. And, that can be seen everywhere in businesses. I think what you could see in a business might be plexiglass or signage, things like that help cleaning supplies. You might not necessarily see that, but that's how these businesses were eligible to receive some funding for those types of expenses. And also for human services, I mentioned that about almost $9 million was allocated to help people during this time. And community resources, they work in a variety of ways. So community resources works with, we call it AD Works, but it's Arapahoe Douglas Workforce Program. And they continue to host webinars. So if you're a business, please go to AD Works, and you can find that links to that on our county website, Arapahoe County website, and they are focusing on hiring, skills training, or retraining if necessary, and programs that match employers with prospective employees. So we're continuing and have been. Those programs have not stopped during COVID, and there still are people and companies that have been hiring. So just encourage if you have someone, if you yourself or you have someone who's looking for a job, a position, look at AD Works. I think personally, I think it's one of the best workforce centers in the entire country. So they'll work with you, and if you're a business, we'll get you hooked into to some of the other programs as well. So I think we have one of the things that we did do this year is last year, we did hire an additional staff person to work our veterans. So if you're a veteran, it's a good way to contact and see what benefits are available to you. Again, that website, our website at Arapahoe County, or adworks.org for more information about the Arapahoe Douglas Workforce Program. Next slide, please, Luke. Human services is another area that we've spent and allocated quite a bit of money toward, as you can imagine, and maybe you have been affected yourself, or you know someone who has lost their job. We know that restaurants, gyms, hospitality, in the hospitality industry, we've had a lot of people who have lost their jobs, and as well as business in general, but those areas have been hit pretty hard. So under the CARES funding, we've allocated money to hotel motel vouchers for those who have become homeless, and trying to get them, as we work with them through AD Works, get them back on their feet and to find more stable housing, interim housing. And it's particularly difficult for any individual, but if you've got a family, it's particularly hard. We also have allocated money toward food banks and Meals on Wheels, behavioral and physical health organizations, because we do know that this COVID pandemic has been really difficult for individuals. And from a mental health standpoint, a lot of people have children home from school. The kids have been in and out of school or out of school the entire time, and trying to maybe work from home as well as take care of kids or make sure that they're doing their homework and staying up to date on their studies. So we know it's been really, really stressful. So that we've been proud that we've been able to uh, allocate a lot of money toward those important services. The goals is, and it says 2Gen, that's two generational. And our goals program, we started a center that takes homeless families and gives them shelter. And most of them, they'll have kids and they'll have some daycare, and making sure that they have a safe and stable place to live and connect them with AD Works. So it's kind of a short-term program, maybe 9 months or so, and trying to get them again into stable housing so that they can move on from there. It's a terrific program. Very proud of Arapahoe County and our Human Services Department and Family Tree for developing that program. It's been a real community effort. Food and financial um, uh, benefits. I've talked a little bit about those, but and vulnerable adults and caregivers. Of course, we continue to provide financial benefits and food and protective services for children and adults. Both of these programs are seeing increased numbers as more children are at home and parents are struggling in some ways financially, and it puts a lot of strain on a family. So those services continue. And if you have, I'm going to keep referring because on our website there are also phone numbers that you can find if you have concerns or you know someone or believe that there's a concern that you are witnessing. Please contact the county or one of those hotline services. Yes, next slide, Luke. The budget, always something that not so fun to talk about, but it's important. This is, as many of you all know, our county is a Tabor. Our general fund is restricted by Tabor, and which is a good thing. You can't grow too quickly, and therefore, in downturns in the economy, we can continue because we are frugal all the time, and we're that's how we manage the business of the county. And I think in tough times that really helps us. Nobody likes to have tough times, but it makes it easier when you've been financially, fiscally very responsible the entire time and conservative. So the county, we don't know what the outcome of the COVID pandemic will be. We know that there are businesses who have gone out of business. There'll be some vacant space as we go through this year. Reassessments, property reassessments, or property tax assessments. Then we'll know next year or later this year what the impact of that's going to be, maybe largely on commercial, maybe less on residential, but commercial could have some major impacts. And since the Arapahoe County is two-thirds, our general fund is two-thirds funded by property tax, we could see some impacts. And that leads me to one of the things that about a year ago, our board started really looking at doing a strategic plan. We spent months because we knew that we were going to be faced with some financial challenges, not just because of COVID, but we have aging infrastructure, and we needed to be able to address those issues. And the strategic plan was developed with to help us. We know we're going to have to be more fiscally restrained, and to help us give us some parameters maybe around how we make some of those more difficult decisions. So we spent a lot of time, and I won't go into it now, all of our strategic plan and everything we developed, but it is all, again, online, and you're welcome to get online and read that. And it is going to help us to determine what our top priorities are and how we go about doing that. And if we have to reduce budget, where is it that we're going to do that has the most minimal effect on the services that we provide. So it may mean cutting or eliminating unnecessary expenses. We've done a lot of that already. We're trying to determine what kind of, with a lot of businesses being, or a lot of our workers working from home, are there some efficiencies that we could realize from that while not losing important customer service? So all of those things we are looking at, and we just want to make sure that we can continue to provide the best service that we can. And certainly all of these services, most of what we do is mandated. We're required by the state to provide them, and we want to continue to provide those at the best level that we can. So as part of that process, we continue to involve our citizens, our stakeholders, and trying to make sure that we are thinking about all that we need to when we're making those. We have to make tough decisions. So I guess next slide. I'll spend a few minutes on open spaces. I think if there's anything that we really got to enjoy during the pandemic was open spaces, and we appreciated it more than we have in the past. I think we obviously live in Colorado and we enjoy and appreciate our open spaces. But last year, when we needed to get outdoors and when being indoors was not necessarily the safest place to be, being outdoors and walking and going bike riding or on trails and things like that was tremendously important to all of us. So we went through a open space master plan, and as you all probably know, we have a quarter. You may not know, we have a quarter-of-cent sales tax, the only sales tax that Arapahoe County has, and that funds parks, trails, open spaces, and for the county until 2023. And so the open space program master plan did reach out to citizens and ask for their input on what they valued the most and what they wanted to see continued. And we will absolutely continue, although some of the public comment period has really ended. We'll continue to take suggestions and ideas. And that master plan will create a strategy for preserving open space in the county, examine how we care for and enhance the lands we've currently set aside for preservation, and help make the case for a extension of that open space sales tax, which we think will happen. We think we will talk to voters this year about extending that quarter-of-a-cent sales tax. And just to let you know, 50% of that is shared back with the cities. And then another large chunk of it goes to grants that, again, go back to cities and special districts all across the county. And then there's a part of it that is also used in the county for unincorporated parts of the county to do the same thing. So we hope you will, when we start asking for that information, we hope you will support that and look for our signs everywhere on trails and in parks, rehabilitating playgrounds and things like that, as well as on our parks and trails, and preserving open space all across the county. So we'll keep in touch with you on that and look for more and more information. We'll get that out to the public. So the last thing I really want to cover is and before we take questions, is our transportation master plan. And it wasn't a really big deal when we were not driving as much and when we're home. But as we get back to work and things kind of get back to normal, we're going to start. It's always kind of a hot button because we don't like traffic, and the transportation master plan looks at roadway improvements as well as other mobility issues, how to make the most of all modes of transportation and how they can all work together. One of the things that we've worked really hard on in this transportation master plan is working with our municipalities or with our cities, because it's important to have a good. We're all part of a transportation system, and we want to work well with our cities, with what their plans are, what our plans are, and how they mesh going forward over many, many years in the future, and how we best focus our dollars for the future. So we've been engaging the public, and one of the things that you've probably seen if you've been voting in Colorado is that over many years, the voters have not supported any kind of increase for statewide transportation programs. So that's put a strain on, as we know, more as our population grows and we have more vehicles, there's more wear and tear on the roads. And with continued funding at the level that it's been in terms of gas tax and things like that since the 90s, it continues to put a strain on making sure that we can keep up with our roads and we don't have potholes. The roads, it's the safety of the roads as well. We don't want to have unsafe conditions on our roads. In addition to traffic congestion, we want traffic to move smoothly, but it's also safety that we're concerned about. So we've encouraged citizen participation throughout the process and had some interactive maps, surveys, other online communication tools. I want to thank everybody for submitting your comments. And you can look at that master plan on our website and kind of go through the maps and see what the thinking is there. And that's arapahoegov.com transportation plan, as it says on the screen. So that, I think that is all that I have. So Luke, we want to go back and if we have any questions, I'm happy to do what I can to answer questions. If I don't have an answer, we'll try to make sure we can post answers to the questions that if I don't have an answer or Luke doesn't have an answer. You may have an answer, but we'll try to find that for everyone.
Indeed, we will. Thank you, Commissioner. We just to circle back on a few things the Commissioner said, for COVID vaccine testing information, case data, things like that, we encourage everybody to visit tchd.org. That's the Tri-County Health Department website. Their phone number is 303-220-9200. 303-220-9200. And their call centers recently added some expanded hours. So if you call it sort of off hours, you'll probably have a shorter hold time, but they can give you all the answers you're looking for on, the on the ground COVID stuff as you're trying to decide whether to get tested, when to get vaccinated, where you are on the list, that kind of thing. The other website. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I'll just add that if you go on to the Tri-County Health website, they have links to the CDC. And if you have questions about things that you need to be doing or questions about I think there's a lot of information now about how this is COVID has mutated. They'll have answers, to all of those kinds of questions on their recommendations, that kind of thing, in a local sense through Tri-County Health, but also to the CDC.
Absolutely. And then, as the commissioner mentioned just now, if you have a question that occurs to you later or that we weren't able to answer, you can send her an email at nsharpe@arapahoegov.com, or you can send an email to communicationservices@arapahoegov.com, and we can make sure that the right people see it. And speaking of questions, if you're on the phone and want to ask one live, just dial *3, and that'll put you through to an operator. And if you are watching us online, you can put a question in the comments box and we can read it. We have a few lined up here already. Before we get to those, I just want to talk to the commissioner about a few things that are in her wheelhouse, as it were, in District 2. You mentioned the transportation master plan. A lot of attention and a big part of that is the Bellevue I-25 interchange and the various plans that we have for changing that up. Can you talk a little bit about what the latest is in that area?
Yeah, we're still going through some analysis. We have gone through with, I think it's about 8 stakeholders, including Colorado Department of Transportation, local Denver, Greenwood Village, Arapahoe County, and others to talk about what's the best solution for alleviating traffic going into for the next 20 plus years, because we know that whatever happens to be done there is going to be incredibly expensive. I mean, we could be talking about $100 million to improve that interchange, so that improvements will last and make a difference well into the future. So we're trying to be very careful and work with all of the partners as to how we solve this pretty big problem. And anybody who drives through that interchange knows a lot of people avoid it. And but you get stuck in it, you realize that something needs to be done, and it has to be something that works for the surrounding communities and the business community at the most reasonable cost that we can. And as to get that done, it's going to require local funds, state funds, and federal funding. And so we need to really get moving on this pretty quickly, so that we can, if federal funds come for infrastructure, that we have a plan and that we can implement it, and we're ready to go.
Excellent. And sort of along those lines, you're in your 3rd term as county commissioner. Do you have any specific goals that are tied to, because we have term limits, so this will be your final one. Do you have any specific goals for this term that you might not have had in terms 1 and 2?
Well, I'm hoping, since we got, when we talk about transportation really quickly, and then I'll deal with some other things in a second, I kind of thought that I would never see Arapahoe and I-25. I thought I would maybe be in a nursing home by then, but it got done. And it got done because all of the jurisdictions pulled together with the state. We had a great plan. We all agreed on what the solution is, and we moved forward. And it was we were there at the right time for getting that done. And that's what my hope is for Bellevue and I-25 and across the county. I think what we've got now, which makes me happy, we haven't had this, is now we have Arapahoe County Transportation Forum, and we've always worked collaboratively with our cities, but now it really is, that's in high gear, and so that all of the cities can work together on what are the highest priorities across the county in their city as well as across the county. So I think that I've been involved with transportation for many, many years, even prior to me becoming a commissioner. So, the other thing that for the last more than 10 years I've worked on is human services. And some of the things I talked about earlier, the goals program, and addressing the many, many needs that, particularly during a pandemic, but we've seen it during recessions, that our human services team, they don't miss a beat. They are amazing people that work every day for the welfare of children and families and seniors, and trying to provide, if there are issues with child abuse, neglect, things like that, they're addressed quickly so that children can be receive the best care that they can. And if it's need to be removed from a home or something like that, we take care of them. And I'm just extremely proud of all of the people that work from the county. And I'll just say real quickly that when this pandemic started and we had to we closed our offices, but we still had the people's work to do. And our employees did it. Yeah, we got a little bit behind because our offices weren't open, but everybody really rallied, and I think has done a great job. We learned a lot. People came in when they needed to get the work done. They came in to the office regardless, and I just that after all these years that it makes me very, very proud. I knew we had a great county and we have great employees, but it really came home. I see it all the time, but really in a crisis is when you really see it the most. And for anybody who's online now and listening, I hope you feel the same way. And if there are but we can always improve. If there are things we can improve on, let us know. And so I would say, from my standpoint, the strategic plan is really important. I think navigating my last 2 years in office, making sure that we navigate through this and any major changes that we have and put us on that right course so that we know how we can continue to make really good decisions for you all as the citizens in our county. I've had a great opportunity to work with some amazing organizations over the years, Developmental Pathways, just to be one of them. And, it's, we've got a great county, and that I just want to leave it the best that I can.
Excellent. We're going to go to a phone question now. I'm going to bring in Sid from Centennial. Sid, live.
So my question is for the commissioner, and I appreciate the work that's been done on the I-25 corridor over your tenure. But I'm looking at, Jared Polis says it's too complex for the state to figure out how to administer and schedule vaccines appointments. Is there something that you or the Tri-County area can do to short circuit that so that people over 65 can actually get appointments, especially if they are not internet savvy?
I think it's a great question, an important question, Sid. We talk about that all the time when people are not computer savvy, trying to make sure that there are phone numbers for people to call. And again, I probably refer you to Tri-County Health. I must admit that rolling out of the vaccine has not been as smooth as all of us would like to have seen. A lot depends on, I know a lot of us are anxious. We want to make sure that we get the vaccine, or people that we care about get the vaccine. But we also are trying to balance not only the distribution of it, but the amount of vaccine that comes into the state. We only get a certain allocation. So the state has determined how they are going to allocate the vaccines. And what I do know is that there are a lot of, CVS, King Super Safeway, other pharmacies that would like to participate and help out, but there isn't enough vaccine for all of the organizations who would like to help, in addition to hospitals and health organizations. So I would just, it's frustrating. I absolutely, it was frustrating for me. And I think for all of us to not have some sort of central number. But it is it is getting better. I've seen that just in the last week or so, and the more vaccine that becomes available, the easier it will be. And I just say, just kind of hang in there and try to be patient, and everybody just continue to do the things we've done for a year of trying to keep ourselves safe by, the mask wearing and washing hands and social distancing. And we're going to have to do that for many more months until there's enough vaccine to make it available to the general population. And we go through all of these categories. I wish I had a better answer, Sid, but
Well,
best
I can add a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so as the commissioner mentioned, Tri-County's call center and the state's call center can register people for a vaccine appointment, even if they don't have a computer. Again, the Tri-County number is 303-220-9200. And the other thing that we've done as a county, a couple things. We hired a local ad agency called Amelie last fall, and we used CARES money for that to create some campaigns about best practices and that kind of thing. And now we've expanded that into vaccines. So if you're out in the community at all, you'll see posters in windows, you'll see billboards, you'll see some RTD trains wrapped with film that sort of gives you these numbers and these websites to go to. Obviously, if you don't have a computer, you wouldn't do the website, but they do have phone numbers on them. We also have weekly ads that we put in 4 area papers. So the I-70 Scout, the Villager, the Colorado Community Media, so all the papers that are associated with that brand, and then the Aurora Sentinel has weekly print ads that point people toward these resources. So even if you don't have a computer, we're trying to get the word out as many ways as we possibly can. So,
As
go ahead.
Finish.
No, I'm finished.
I was going to say that it's important to know that if you have health insurance through one organization, you do not have to go just to one. You can get vaccinated any place you can get an appointment. So, don't think you have to go to one company. And
Right.
and I think what Luke says in terms of those phone numbers, really important. If you can't, if you or people don't have access to a computer, or sometimes for me it's being that savvy on the computer to find everything that I need. Sometimes it's worth spending a little bit of time on hold to get the answers that you need when you talk to a person.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when we did our vaccine town hall a couple of weeks ago that the medical providers themselves, including Tri-County, were encouraging people to sign up with multiple providers. So that's just fine.
Yeah.
Make sure you keep your appointment when it finally comes in. So, and cancel the ones you already. So, I'm going to go to another phone question here. This is Dan in Centennial. Go ahead, Dan. You are live.
Yes, my question is there a timeline or are there any plans to get the public libraries reopened on a full-time basis?
I just had a meeting with the executive director for the Arapahoe Library District, and the middle of this month, they are pretty much going back to, you don't have to make an appointment anymore. So I would check with the library, but my understanding from them is that this month they will be open pretty much as normal. Now, I know they're not doing, a lot of people would drop off books for, used book days and things like that. I don't believe they're doing anything like that. But to go ahead and get into the library, I think they are pretty much planning to be back to pre-COVID, I hope by the end of this month. And they do, I add one other thing, that if you, for those that don't feel comfortable going back into the library, they have a lot of services where you can check out a book and they'll bring it out to the curb for you. Just like we get at grocery stores and things, they have curbside service. So look at that too. If individuals if you don't feel, or you yourself or others don't feel comfortable going into the library but want to get books.
Right. And as the commissioner noted up at the top of the conversation, where we are on the dial right now, it's we can help get that date of full reopening coming sooner by continuing to do the right things behaviorally with the masks and the social distancing and so forth, getting the vaccines, et cetera. We're getting closer. It's definitely a lot better than it looked a few months ago. So,
For sure.
yeah. So one of the things that, as we look, this is meant to be sort of a look ahead to 2021. Obviously, a county official is always going to be paying attention to what's going on at the state legislature. Can you talk a little bit about anything you have a close eye on in terms of upcoming bills that we might be seeing?
Well, there are a couple of things that maybe will impact you all, and maybe not so much. Maybe we're thinking about it a little bit more, but redistricting that will redraw federal district lines for House of Representatives. Also redraw lines for state, Senate, and House districts, and counties, as well as precinct districts. So that's something we have to wait till the census numbers come out, and that, unfortunately, they're quite late. They won't be out until this summer. So we're watching that to see if there's going to be enough time to really talk about how best to give proper consideration to all of the redistricting issues to make sure that there's no gerrymandering, that it's fair, and that kind of thing. And so the state's put together and actually was voted on it, Y and Z, by the citizens a few years ago, and that's the plan they have. And we obviously will be doing things at the county level to make sure that they are all open with citizen input and panels from all political parties and those who are unaffiliated, to make sure that we have a good plan and a fair plan for redrawing any lines that we might have, county commissioner lines as well. One of the things that we do see, and we know from, because I was there at the last census, is that our population is growing east in the county. So we're really growing to the east. We can see that when we drive on E470. If you're out in that area in the last 10 years, it's the growth has been phenomenal. So we'll be watching that. There, a couple of other bills. There's a property tax bill that's being considered. There are healthcare bills. There are behavioral health bills, funding. There are a variety of things, but the legislature just came back into session. And of course, it'll be, because of COVID, it'll be somewhat modified. We'll probably get the same number of bills, but the process will be, I hope it'll be a little bit more streamlined. But the county always watches any of the bills that impact you as citizens in our county, and certainly that impact our services, across the county. So kind of stay tuned. We're just getting started.
Excellent. I have one more phone question here. It sounds like it might be a law enforcement related question, but I want to make sure that she gets heard. This is Mary from Centennial. Go ahead, Mary, you're on. Mary?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
We can. Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
We have a few rental properties. One is in Greenwood Village. It's a studio. I mean, it's less than 500 square feet. But we have somebody that's squatting in there, and I have given him, resources for him to file for help with his rent, but he just refuses. He's not paying, and In reality, I mean, it's property that I own, but a friend of mine was doing Airbnb on it, and we weren't getting very much, during COVID. And she took somebody that was not on Airbnb. I don't know if she got him from Craigslist, but he will not budge. He will not pay. And I don't know him, but is there any resource for us to be able to start the eviction process? Or, I mean, the thing is that, like I said, she essentially subletted it to him without telling us.
Mm. I'm not exactly sure of the answer, but I would contact the city. In that case, City of Greenwood Village, if you have properties in other cities, I would contact that city government and see if they can give you some help. I do know that in terms of rent assistance, I talked a little bit about that. We do are, and in fact, talking about that a little bit more tomorrow on what we do with rent assistance. So our community resources department might be able to help. There are some funds that we get from the federal government, and thinking that there will be additional funds that we may get through the federal government with an extension of any, well, I'm going to call it CARES funding, but something similar to that. But I don't know if this person won't access some of the resources that are available. I don't know how to help, but I think that there is some funding that could be available. So I would just suggest that they you go or to the city, and he also could go to Arapahoe County Community Resources.
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing that that comes up a lot is what is the county's responsibility versus what's the city. If the property is in Greenwood Village, then that city would have a role to play in that. If it's an unincorporated, the county has a bigger role to play. But as the commissioner said, community resources is a great outlet for those kind of assistance funds. So we have
Oops, I'm sorry, Luke. They'll know there's a little bit of delay. I'm sorry to over you, but that we do. The county does access federal funds and state funds. So if state funds become available, we will have those also. And so the best thing is for a person like that who may be behind because of COVID. It has to be COVID related. But if they are behind in their rent because of COVID, there could be some resources for them. And I think the city would be the most help for you on other issues.
Great. We have time for a couple more questions. We do have a few teed up here online. One of them is asking, is it true that there are now drop boxes outside of some county buildings where we can drop our property tax payments?
Ooh, Luke, maybe you know the answer to that. I know we have a lot of vote. We had a lot of vote boxes out, but I'm not sure about property tax.
Yeah, let's see. I think there is, and I'm going to have to do some research on that. I seem to recall some kind of Dropbox service being offered by the treasurer and or the assessor. But I'll tell you what, I will write a note to myself to look that up, and we will post it on our website, and we'll also include it in the weekly commissioners newsletter, just so people know. But I believe if we haven't done it yet, I think there may be plans to do it. So I'll write that down and make sure we capture it.
One of the things we had talked about, and I'm just not sure if it's actually been done, is using some of the drop boxes that are permanent drop boxes for voting to change those into drop boxes for property taxes. I just don't know if that's been done, but probably if you go into our website, and Luke will investigate this more, but if you wanted to look at either the assessor's website or the treasurer's website on the Arapahoe County website, they might, and do a search there, a question. They might be able to have that already up there. But I do know that we were trying to make better use of those drop boxes, permanent drop boxes that we have across the county. And I'm just not sure if it's been done yet.
Well, as we're talking here, our colleague Chris Henning is telling me that we have a Dropbox at the admin building in Littleton. So on Prince Street in Littleton, as the commissioner mentioned, the permanent Dropbox for voting is being repurposed in off season when we're off election season, so that we can do that there. And then my other colleague Jeannie is telling us that all Dropboxes are listed on the assessor's page. So if you go to arapahoegov.com/204//assessor, you can find exactly where they are, and find the one closest to you. So great.
Luke,
That's
could
teamwork.
you say that again? That website, you broke up a little bit when I was listening.
Oh,
You
yeah,
mind
sure.
saying that again?
arapahoegov.com/204//assessor, or you could go to arapahoegov.com and just search for the assessor's page. So it'll be listed on that. So good work, team. So let's, I think we have time for one more. Let's do a couple more. So you've been a 3-term county commissioner. Before that, you were the mayor of Greenwood Village. Before that, you were a city council member in Greenwood Village. Been a resident obviously for many years. What would you say if you were talking to somebody who was visiting the county for the first time? What are some of our hidden gems that they want to check out?
Oh my goodness.
Could be a restaurant.
I'm not going to pick one or two. There's so many that I think are wonderful. I would say, that Cherry Creek State Park is a gem that we have for boating, or that there's a dog park there. There's a beach. So I think walking on the trails is phenomenal there. I think the other thing that's is wonderful, all of our trails and bike paths that connect. That's part of our master plan, is how we connect all of the trails in Arapahoe County that go into, say, Jefferson County. So you get over to the Platte and further in Arapahoe County, and then go on into Jefferson County from there east. Oh my gosh, I would get on and look for everything that happens out in the eastern part of our county. There are so many wonderful things that they have out there to take your family to go, boats and all kinds of things that in the rural part of our county that if you live in the more urbanized part of our county, there's so many wonderful things to go out there, to see out there. And so those are, I'm sure, I know I'm missing things, but those are the first things that come to mind. But certainly we have wonderful residential areas. I think safe. I believe we are a safe county and a desirable place to live. And I think you get good services, whether you live in a city or whether you live in unincorporated parts of the county. I think you get good services all across Arapahoe County. And we're always thinking about how we do better and how we work better collaboratively, everyone, our cities and the county together. I think that's a plus. You don't always get that in other places.
Absolutely true. So last question, and when I asked, I asked this of Commissioner Baker last fall. The question is, what are you most excited about when COVID is under control? And when I asked Commissioner Baker this, he said, I want to have a steak in a restaurant. So what for you, what things are you looking forward to?
I can honestly say not wearing a mask, because I'm always digging in my purse trying to find them, and and then washing them and trying to keep I think not wearing a mask, but also, just the getting back to the way that we were with the freedoms that we had to go to restaurants when we wanted, to go to the gym, to go to places of worship, and sit next to people, to be with people, I think is probably the thing that I'm looking forward to most. I think venues like this, where we do virtual, reaches a lot of people, and there's a lot to be said for that. But it's also nice to be with people in meetings, and to get to see people and visit with them, not on Zoom or Teams or go to meeting or something like that. I think that'll be the thing that I look forward to the most. I can honestly say I won't look forward to driving as much as I used to. That's been the plus to virtual meetings, but I think missing the people interaction and not feeling nervous about it, I think is the thing that I will probably look forward to the most.
Yeah, I think you probably speak for a lot of people. All righty, well, that's an hour, and we want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. We do, as I mentioned at the top, we do these quarterly for each commissioner in their respective districts. We have Commissioners Baker and Holen coming up next week, and you can see the Commissioner Sharpe again sometime in Q2, which is probably going to be around May, sometime in mid-May. And we look forward to seeing you again in person and online. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And when Commissioner Baker, you'll have to have Commissioner Baker, since his district is the eastern part of the county, to talk about the wonderful things that happen out in the eastern part of the county, particularly as we get into the summer, and some of the great things, Farm in a Jar, and so many of the wonderful things that they have out in the rural part of our county to celebrate that. And again, we have some amazing trails that and areas that have been preserved out in the eastern part of our county. So hopefully, when his time comes up, it can prompt him to talk a lot about that, since he knows it so well.
Absolutely. Well, I'll make sure to make a point of that. All right,
Okay.
everyone. Thank you much, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.